This is Frugal Food. Pot stickers make for easy, delicious meals that keep us from eating out. In this video, I'll be sharing with you all of my pot sticker making secrets and how we are able to make these pretty much at any time for very little money. Due to the length of this video, I've segmented it into 3 parts and there will be jump to links in the pinned comment below. Now let's get to the pot stickering. The recipe I use for the filling will be in the description box below. That recipe will outline the ingredients that you will need for 1 pound of protein. In this video, I'll be preparing 3 pounds of protein. You can see I'm using a green cabbage for my filling. I just cut it into strips about a ½ inch wide and slice it as thinly as possible. Most traditional pot sticker recipes call for Napa cabbage, and this is a very specific cabbage that isn't always available. Green cabbage, however, is very inexpensive and accessible and has a really long refrigerator life, and for this reason, it's pretty much always in our refrigerator. Now that my cabbage is shredded, I'm just going over it with the knife to cut any larger pieces a bit smaller. Here I'm finely chopping the ginger and the garlic. I really want to get these chopped as finely as possible. You can even run the blade of your knife parallel to the cutting board in order to try to make a sort of paste with the aromatics. Now I'm just going to add in the rest of the ingredients, which are pretty straightforward, and I am using a scale to do my measuring just so that I don't have to wash any of those measuring utensils. Here I'm adding some white pepper, but you can use black pepper if that's what you have. I feel like the sesame oil in this dish really makes it pop, and we buy our sesame oil in these huge 56-ounce tin containers, and it usually costs about $10 if you can find them on sale. Now I'll grab a wooden spoon and mix all my ingredients together. Just as a side note that if you triple the amount of cabbage and keep the seasonings the same, this makes for a delicious Asian salad that keeps well in the fridge for a really long time. And this is what I had for my dinner this night. You want to let the cabbage rest for about an hour. After an hour, it reduces in size by about 1/3. This is ground chicken breast that was marked down by $2 a pound because it needed to be used that day. It ended up costing $1.49 a pound, and since I had all the other ingredients on hand, I was able to make all these pot stickers on the day that I bought the meat. You can really use any kind of protein for this. We've done it with turkey, pork, shrimp, even firm tofu works really well. To mix the filling, I cut the meat in the middle toward the bottom and scoop the bottom around to the top. Then I repeat after returning the bowl about 1/4 of a turn. This prevents overmixing the meat, which can result in it being tough. I have a few tips and tricks to make the wrapping much easier. The first is to buy wraps that are about the thickness of a US penny or quarter. You can certainly make your own and save even more money, but for convenience we prefer to use these pot stickers with the panda picture on them. I'm also using this Nasoya brand wrap. I got it on sale for 50 cents a packet because they were close to the sell-by date. I bought a couple of cases and stored them in the freezer. To use these, I just thawed them by placing them on my counter until they got to room temperature. To revive these wraps, I'm saturating a cotton towel with water and wringing it out so it doesn't drip anymore. Now I'm taking the wraps out of the package and loosening the layers by folding the stack back and forth. You can see them spreading out when I do this. Whether your wraps have been frozen or not, it's a good idea to perform all of these steps. Next, I take some lukewarm water and I dip about 1/4 inch of the sides of the stacks. Then I wrap the stacks of skins in the wet towel and microwave it on high for 30 seconds. These steps really help the edges to behave more like a fresh dough. Now these wraps are ready to be used, but before we start, I have one more trick. Here I have a small saucer and a high-quality paper napkin. This is one from a pack that we got from Costco. If you have a paper towel like Bounty, that will work well too. Just fold whatever you have into a size that will match the size of the wraps. We're basically making a stamp pad that we can use to wet the wraps. As long as the level of water is lower than the height of the napkin, then you're good to go, and you can just refill the water as you need. This little trick streamlines the process so much. Here I'm setting everything up at our dinner table. I use a cookie sheet to place the pot stickers. I don't line it with anything, and I haven't had any issues with the pot stickers sticking. Okay, now let's wrap. Now I'm taking a wrap and I'm going to dab one side completely on the napkin. After dipping the skin into the wet napkin, you'll notice that one side is a little bit sticky and tacky, and that's what you want. You don't want to get too much water on it. If you do, you can just use another skin to dab off the extra water, and then both skins will be ready. So here I'm adding a rounded tablespoon of the filling. This is just a standard spoon that came with our silverware set. I used the shape of this spoon to my advantage to measure and shape the mound of meat, and it's really perfect for this. Notice how the filling overflows the spoon by maybe just about 1/4 of an inch or so. I place the filling in the center of the wrap and move the oblong-shaped meat toward my dominant hand. I'm a righty, so the majority of the filling is there. Then I fold it over as if it's a taco and pinch about 1/2 an inch at the center. I squeeze it hard so that it's about as thick as one layer of the skin. Now with my left hand, I'm going to grab about 1/2 an inch down and make a pleat about 1/4 of an inch wide. For the pleat, I'm going to squeeze it extra hard so that all the layers of the skin basically become about one layer's thickness. After the pleat, I pinch about 1/2 an inch down again on the 2 layers and then repeat with another pleat. All my right hand is doing is holding the pot sticker and pinching, while my left hand is feeding the wrap to be folded. You can see that as I was closing the pot sticker that some of the filling started coming out the other side. So if this happens, just use your thumb to push it down toward the center. This helps the pot sticker keep that plump shape. Now I'm just going to continue pinching in halves and pleating in halves. As you get toward the end, it helps to handle the pot sticker by the top pinched side and not by the bottom. This allows gravity to help you keep the filling in the pot sticker. And if some of the meat starts coming out again, you can use your thumb to push it back in. Or if you think you have too much at this point, you can scoop it out. The measurements that I'm giving you don't have to be accurate here. The idea is just to get 5 or 6 pleats to get that signature crescent shape. And that should be it. To make sure everything is closed tightly, I do like to go over and repinch the closed side again just to be extra sure. This was shown from my son's perspective. Now I'll show you from my perspective. First, I dab the wrap to wet the one side completely. Then I take a rounded tablespoon of the filling and place that meat toward my dominant hand. Now using my dominant hand, I'm pinching about 1/2 an inch at the middle. I use my left hand to grab about 1/2 an inch down and push the wrap at an angle down toward my right hand. As you see here, my right hand is pushing straight toward the left, and the left is pushing at an angle down toward the right. This motion will make that really nice pleat that I can then pinch with my right hand. Then I pinch this extra hard to make sure that it's about the thickness of one layer. Now I can use my fingers to walk down to the other end of the wrap by pinching in 1/2 inch increments and feeding in 1/2 inch increments. And I can use my thumb to push any of the filling back in toward the center. Of all the pot sticker folding techniques that I've tried, and I've tried a lot, this is the fastest that I know of. Practice definitely makes better, and I'm always trying to do better. If you know of any folding techniques, I'd love to hear them. I want to share with you a couple more points on the wrappers, especially if you're using very thin ones like these Nasoya ones. Notice how the wrappers looks like it's one chunk of dough. Just use your fingers to try to separate the layers out. Here you can see I'm using my fingernails to try to pry it apart. The dough is a lot more resilient than you'd think, and if you do get a hole, then it's easy to patch. Last point on these wrappers, just to make them work for me, I needed to make them thicker, and I did that by dabbing one skin on the wet napkin and then put another wrap on top of that to make a wrap of the perfect thickness. Now the whole family gets to dab and wrap. Hey, maybe that could be a new song. Because these Nasoya wraps were so difficult to work with, we had one person prepping the wrap while the other person did all the wrapping. This is definitely a labor of love. Not only is this frugal, delicious food, but it's also a productive bonding time. It's a time for us to unplug and chat and catch up as a family. It's so much more than the food and the savings. Now going back to the pot stickers, we put one full sheet of the pot stickers in the freezer for the future. I froze those for about 3 hours and then stored them in freezer bags. This will usually last us about a month. We ended up freezing about 5 1/4 pounds of the pot stickers, and the rest we cook for dinner that night and for my son's lunches for the week. Let's cook some pot stickers. Getting your stainless steel pan up to the proper temperature is imperative to cooking these pot stickers properly. I'm going to use the water trick here to make sure my pan is at the right temperature. This is a heavy bottomed stainless steel pan that I have going on medium heat. As my pan is heating up, I'm pouring a few drops of water, or about 1/8 of a teaspoon, in to see how it reacts. I'm basically looking for signs that the water balls up. Just to illustrate the differences in how the water reacts at the various times and temperatures, I'm showing it to you at 30-second intervals. Here we are after 4 minutes of heating. You can see the water balling up here, but there are many little drops as well. This tells us we're very close to the correct temperature. Now at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm trying again, and you can see that the water stays together. There's one main one, and it doesn't dissipate quickly. This is called the Leidenfrost effect. My son and I really geeked out on this one and had a lot of fun rolling the little ball of water around the pan. I think we had too much fun because the pan overheated, as you can see from the smoke after I added the oil. This is about a tablespoon of oil. Because my pan was smoking, I decided to take it off the heat for 5 minutes to let it cool. Even if your pan doesn't smoke like mine, I still recommend you take it off the heat for 2 to 3 minutes to let the pan cool down. Once the pan is at this temperature, it's fine to move it down to low and cook all your batches on low heat. What I'm showing you now is actually the second batch because I want to point out how relatively clean the pan is after cooking the first batch. You can see there are some little brown bits at the bottom, and I just use my spatula to scrape those off and discard them. If I didn't do this, then they just burn while I was cooking the pot stickers. The pot stickers I'm cooking here are freshly made, so I'm using a low heat. If I were to use frozen, then I'd use the same method, but move it to a medium-low heat. Now using my lid, I'm going to pour in 2 tablespoons of water and just let it steam for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, I check the bottoms to make sure they're not getting too brown. The last thing I want is for burned bottoms. These were a nice tan color, so I just let them go for longer. I added another tablespoon of water and let it go for another 3 minutes. These weren't done to my liking yet, so I ended up flipping them so that the bottoms wouldn't get too brown and so that the pot stickers could continue cooking. You could see that these were relatively easy for me to flip, and this has to do with that Leidenfrost effect, as well as not adding too much water to the steaming process. Now I'm going to use my lid again to add 2 more tablespoons of water to cook it for another 3 minutes. And dinner is served. These are my son's favorite to take to school for lunch. They're great to have in our arsenal for those quick weeknight meals. You can steam, fry, or boil them, whatever your heart desires. I'm going to leave you now with some footage that we captured of that Leidenfrost effect. I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe for more videos on how we try to live more frugally and minimally. Happy cooking! Bye!